Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Did this story not too long ago about the police officer in Michigan who was called to an apartment complex because somebody was soliciting there, and the man wound up getting arrested for obstruction and some other made-up things because it turns out there's no law in the books in Michigan against soliciting, at least not anywhere near where that happened. And as I pointed out in a follow-up video, soliciting by itself is not actually a crime anywhere, and the Supreme Court has said so. So, having said those things, several people said, Steve, did you see this one? Stan and Tom both sent it to me out of Tennessee. So these things happen across America where police don't know the law. And it's shocking when several of them don't know the law, and it compounds itself. So from lawandcrime.com, Jerry Lamb wrote the article, and his headline is, Constitutionally Illiterate Tennessee Authorities Arrest Man for Posting an Anti-Police Meme on Social Media. And this is even crazier than that headline would suggest, because you might be thinking, well, what anti-police meme was it? You know, was it really revolutionary? No, not at all. It was an insult, but insults are actually protected speech under the Constitution. Special agents from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, hereinafter referred to as the TBI, and Dixon Police Department on Friday arrested a man accused of posting a photograph on social media depicting two men urinating on the grave of a police officer who was tragically killed on duty in 2018. Now, I'll be the first to admit to you that is in profoundly bad taste. It is in bad taste, as we would say. But is it illegal? The arrest and subsequent bond demanded for his release outraged attorneys who were quick to point out that despite being horrifically insensitive, the photo in question is undoubtedly protected under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, several places in the story refer to this as a doctored or photoshopped photo, but I've poked around and I also found sites that said it was simply the album cover or the artwork for the cover of a single for a song by a band. So somebody had taken the photo from the cover artwork to promote a song, posted that on the internet, and said, this is what I have to think about these cops. So photoshopped or altered or whatever, it's either way, it's just a photograph. So this morning, District Attorney General Ray Crouch requested the TBI to investigate the origin of a troubling photograph getting considerable attention on social media that seemed to depict individuals desecrating the grave of a deceased local law enforcement officer, the TBI tweeted on Friday. Agents visited the gravesite and quickly determined the photograph was not authentic. It was not an actual photograph of that grave. The TBI's work, however, continues, and to that end, the Bureau would encourage anyone with information about who may be responsible for manufacturing the image to call the police. And again, you can go on the internet and just reverse search this and find the photograph, and it is on music websites for sale. You can buy the song that's promoted by the image. You might say, Steve, how good is that music? I'm not a music critic, so we won't get into that. The Bureau's investigation led them to arrest a man who they charged with harassment and ordered him held on $76,000 bond. That's the court ordered him to be held on the bond. But as Tennessee Attorney Daniel Horowitz pointed out, and he's a specialist in First Amendment litigation, the conduct the TBI arrested Garton for is simply not a crime. So again, someone's being arrested for something that is not a crime. The police cannot simply arrest people for the fun of it. Okay? This is not a crime. The man should not be arrested for this. The First Amendment clearly and unmistakably protects this man's right to post an offensive photo about a police officer, he told Law and Crime. This is Horowitz speaking again. The only people who broke the law here were the police officers and TBI agents who participated in this flagrantly unconstitutional arrest. Horowitz tweeted, this is the photo that our constitutionally illiterate law enforcement officers think is a crime to share. And he attached a screenshot of the picture that resulted in Garton's arrest. Additionally, under Tennessee law, harassing conduct requires communications that result in a person being frightened, intimidated, or emotionally distressed. And as noted previously, the photograph is of a grave. So presumably the man who is memorialized by the grave could not be frightened, intimidated, or emotionally distressed at this point. So Horowitz asks, hypothetically, how a deceased person could be subject to criminal harassment. And the attorney notes that the TBI and Dickinson Police Department likely set out to arrest Garton for one thing, quickly realized they couldn't, and they make up something else in frustration. I've now seen it listed as Dickinson and Dixon, so I apologize if I've gotten one of those wrong, because I doubt they're both correct. But Tennessee-based criminal defense attorney Brian Stevenson and First Amendment lawyer Adam Steinbaugh were also quick to point out that the TBI's investigation and graveyard visit could have been avoided with a simple Google image search. You can take the image, put it in Google, and say, "Go Google, find it," and it would just bring you back to websites for the band The Rights, R-I-T-E-S, The Rights. And The Rights used that photo as the cover art for a 2009 single that they released called Pissing on Your Grave. The Rights, R-I-T-E-S. And by the way, it was a 2-track single. The flip side was Caught in Between. Caught in Between. So the album cover, or the music illustration, is promoting the A side of the 2-sided single. Horowitz says he did a meme. They arrested him for posting an anti-police meme. Law and Crime reached out to the TBI, District Attorney Ray Crouch's office, asking whom Garton is alleged to have harassed and how posting such an image can be criminal in light of Supreme Court precedent set in Miller versus California, New York versus Ferber, and Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition. The TBI said all questions regarding the charges should be directed to the district attorney's office. Crouch's office has not responded to the inquiry at the time of publication. And they're going to have a really, really, really hard time even coming up with something that sounds like an explanation. The man went on the internet, saw an album cover piece of art of 2 men urinating on a grave. He took that, posted it on the internet, and said, "This is what I think of the cop." Now, again, horribly distasteful, yes. These days, not as distasteful as it would have been 20 years ago. But you have the right to insult somebody. Whether you should is another thing altogether. But the fact that he posted this distasteful photograph regarding a police officer, well, if there were bad taste police, maybe they could do something about it. But we are talking about law enforcement, whose job it is to enforce laws. So when they arrest people, presumably it's when someone's broken a law. There were no laws broken here, except by the police, because the police wrongfully arrested a man for posting a meme, which isn't illegal. So it's a strange story. And we'll have to watch how it unfolds. I suspect you're going to see a settlement come out of this one too. And by that I mean that the guy's got a great case for, wrongful arrest. So, I don't know how that works in Tennessee. We'll have to see. But the crazy part about this, and again, getting back to the story from the guy in Michigan, there were 2 cops on the scene. One cop did all the talking, the other cop kind of stood in the back and just kind of watched. And some people said, why didn't that guy intervene on some level? We don't know. But when the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and the Dickinson Police Department are all involved in this, shouldn't somebody have said, but wait a second, can we actually arrest a guy for posting a photograph that just insults a dead cop? I mean, is that what law is that breaking? And when somebody said, well, it's harassment, of who? And the point is that the photograph to be harassing would have to result in someone being frightened, intimidated, or emotionally distressed. Who is that doing those things to when he says, this is what I think of this cop? So, like I said, distasteful, rude, insulting, a lot of things, but none of those things are illegal. And I think we actually learned that in like 1st or 2nd grade, sticks and stones and all that. So it's a crazy story, but you would think that when the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Dickinson Police Department, and the prosecutor and everybody else involved, somebody in that group would go, this is actually a problem. You'd think, but it might be the first lawyer who saw it was the prosecutor. And the question is, does the prosecutor step up right now and immediately go, hey, something wrong, and end it? Or does the prosecutor duck for a little while? Because if they duck and kind of keep it off the radar, maybe they're hoping it'll go away on its own, sort of, with less attention. But it's not going to happen in this day and age. There'll be videos made about it. People will be talking about it. And it's going to eventually come out what they're going to be forced to do here. And I suspect they're going to have to do things to take care of the guy that they wrongfully arrested and threw in jail because he posted album artwork on the internet and said, "This is what I think of a cop." So there you go. Constitutionally illiterate Tennessee authorities arrest man for posting an anti-police meme on social media. Lawandcrime.com published it. Jerry Lamb wrote it. Stan and Tom sent it to me. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Daddy, what does formatting drive C mean?